I'm sure many of you saw Capcom's latest trailer, which included information on the new Resident Evil Gold Edition, as well as the Not a Hero DLC, and DLC 3, which now has a name, End of Zoe. I have a lot of information to provide in this video today, as well as speculations. You can definitely consider this a theory video, but a very educated one. And even if some of the elements are wrong in here, I'm sure a lot of them will end up being correct. I'll also be showcasing evidence when applicable and possible to be further reinforcing the ideas I give. So without any further delay, let's get right into it. So the first point I'd like to get into is that I do believe after the events of Resident Evil 7, a new horror is going to unfold along the Baker's Bayou and in the immediate and local areas as well. But this is where things get interesting. I actually believe Zoe's DLC and Chris's DLC respectively are just going to be two different perceptions of the same events that occur. So Zoe's ending is going to be a very survival oriented DLC. We're going to have to traverse through the environment, probably use the stealth to a very high degree while trying to get some answers and escape the immediate dangers within. Chris's DLC on the other hand is going to be very action oriented, shooting and punching through as many enemies as possible until you get to your objective. But I do believe both DLCs are going to be covering the same events, as I said, and I do believe there's some evidence that can reinforce this idea, so let's get into that. Now, if you remember the ending of Resident Evil 7, we basically had Chris rappel down to us, he saved us as the Jesus he is, and we were evacuated out of the area while Chris remained behind to clear up the situation, gain research and intel, and basically uncover the mess that had happened. However, listen to this voice in the trailer, and I do appreciate Evil Lord pointing this out, as when I originally watched the trailer I had my mix amp messed up, and so I didn't actually hear this properly. Zoe? Now naturally you can hear some soldiers being attacked by what I assume is some molded. They're going over the radio chatter hysterically, and we also have a male screaming for Zoe that sounds very familiar, as it sounds like Ethan. One would assume these two events are connected, Zoe's near the troops being attacked and Ethan screaming to help, but this actually comes from the Resident Evil 7 base game itself, and I do believe this is a sound clip taken out when Zoe's being calcified. Zoe? 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 This is interesting, however, and again it goes in line with what I was saying earlier when I said I think both DLCs are connected, because we know that the Not a Hero DLC, because of the recent NeoGAF leak, is going to be taking place directly after the events of Resident Evil 7, and if the Not a Hero DLC is going to be containing soldiers and troops under attack by the molded, and then we have this sound clip of the original Resident Evil 7 game, I definitely believe there's some kind of shadow hint from the developers already that there's some kind of crossover from the two DLCs, but this also gives us one really big surprising fact as well. This is the first confirmation we really have that saving Zoe was the canon ending after all, and this actually ties into a lot of things I'm going to say later on in this video, but this big reveal should be enough for people already to get a little bit curious. This is the first time in history Capcom's really going with the dwindling traumatic ending where nobody really wins. And it's also a confirmation that Mia was left behind at the Baker estate. Keep in mind they said they found no survivors there. I just brought all of those points up as well for a very specific reason, and it's for the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is who exactly are we going to be dealing with as the hive mind in the DLCs. So obviously in the DLCs there's molded, and if you guys aren't aware, we basically got a toy gun in Japan, but it actually contained a pamphlet with some canon lore confirmed by Capcom to be official canon for the story. In that document it states that after Evelyn's downfall, all of the molded in the house turned into goo, they became inert, lost their form, and were just research data at that point. There was no danger anymore from them. However, obviously looking at the screenshots of the DLCs, you can see that we're going to be fighting the molded once again. And this implies that there's a hive mind. But who is a likely hive mind? Now, we have Ethan as a subject as he's infected, but Ethan's escaped out the area, and honestly speaking, considering his mental state, his motives, and who he is, it's not very likely likely that he is going to be a candidate for the hive mind. We also have Lucas, but there are two things to talk about with Lucas as a candidate. First off, in the trailer we recently got, again, you can hear what sounds like Chinese troopers being attacked by the molded.
Zoe?
Now, we know of one big Chinese pharmaceutical company that was in direct competition with Umbrella, and that's Shengya Pharmaceuticals. We know the organization that Lucas is working with actually made him immune to the controlling effects of the hive mind, and I do assume that would also have some consequence of his ability to control the hive mind as a new source. But the other point to make is if it is the Shengya Corporation that he's been working with, which I do think is likely based on the trailer information there, it wouldn't really make much sense for Lucas himself to betray the corporation he's working with, especially considering they don't exactly have an antagonistic relationship and it's mutually beneficial for both parties. They provide technology information for Lucas to use to his advantage, and Lucas does the menial work and gives them information they require in return. There's no real reason for either party to betray each other, and you do have to consider that Lucas is a very intelligent person overall, and he does have a self-preservation instinct. The organization he's working with definitely knows what they're doing, and there's no way, even with the powers he has, that Lucas could fight back against them. I do think Lucas's intelligence is quite high to the point he'd avoid that situation. Next up we have Zoe as a candidate, but the problem with Zoe as a candidate is the fact that we're going to be playing her in the DLC and Surviving the Molded, so that kind of automatically crosses her off. Now last we have Mia, but there is a huge problem with Mia being the candidate, which is that she's actually dead. And I know that might surprise a lot of people, as a lot of people apparently didn't choose the Save Zoe ending, but once you do choose it, you go on to end up killing and murdering your wife, and that's why you eject out of the area alone.
Why, Mia? Why?
So who is actually responsible for being the hive mind in the DLCs? This is a question I'm sure that is going to get on a lot of people's nerves, and it's going to be frustrating to answer. There is only one other character I could assume actually becoming the hive mind, and although they don't really fit the motive, they do fit all the criteria required for being one, and that is actually Jack Baker. Now a lot of people might be very surprised to hear that. Jack Baker, I thought we killed him, but if you remember, we get the cure from Zoe and we calcify him, and then shortly after we escape with Zoe, which is apparently the canon law, and then she is calcified within minutes of Jack's calcification, and now we learn that the calcification didn't kill Zoe. It must take a certain amount of time for the calcification process to fully go through your blood, and thus isn't it possible, because Jack was calcified a short duration before Zoe, that he is also still alive and a possible hive mind. To further reinforce this idea, we do have the hallucination of Jack that happens in game. Now remember that Zoe is in this scene as well, which seems to show they're still actively linked into the hive mind. Even though Jack is calcified, Zoe also shows signs of being connected to the hive mind, asking Evie to get out of her head and becoming calcified after taking the cure. However, Marguerite isn't here, as you completely disintegrated her. While Lucas is immune to the mind suggestion of Evelyn, and Mia seems to be heavily resistant to it, which is why she was imprisoned in the first place, so I'm sure their connection to the hive mind at this point was severed. So I do believe this scene may have been an incognito hint towards the fact that Jack Baker is possibly still alive. Regardless of whether he's a hive mind, I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in that idea. It looks like through the course of both DLCs we'll be opposing 3 different groups trying to achieve their own goals and desires. We'll have Chris's group and Blue Umbrella, we'll have Lucas and his organization, and we'll also have whoever is in control of the hive mind. I'm sure many people are finally excited to be able to speculate properly again due to the recent influx of information, trailers, screenshots, and other things. So let me know what you guys think about all the ideas I've given in this video. I'd like to hear if you guys have had any alternate theories. If anything in this video has opened your eyes, let me know in the comments below as well. I'll be really looking forward to talking to you about that. And also guys, if you do want to follow my Twitter, you can check the description of the video to find a link to it in there. If you found anything in the video insightful, educational, or if it really entertained you, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like or a subscribe. I'm trying to make this channel grow as fast as possible. I put a lot of hard work and effort into the channel, and if you want to be part of the Avid Alliance and support us on that goal to reaching 10 million thousand trillion subscribers, we would really appreciate your support in the cause. Anyway people, I just hope you're having a beautiful day. As always, take it easy and peace.